Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Ms. Espinosa and I teach kindergarten in Texas. And in today's video, I will be sharing how I teach sight words to my students using Eyewords, which is a multisensory teaching approach that aligns with the science of reading research. And I just want to say that this video is not sponsored by Eyewords. I don't get any commissions from sales, but at the end of the video, I will be sharing a discount code you can use if you want to get 15% off your order. But I just really love this teaching resource and I want to spread the word about it because it's been such a game changer. It's been so fun and easy and effective to integrate into our phonics and our small group routines. So I'm going to demonstrate how I use a couple of the iWord resources in my classroom. So let's get started. I first want to spend a couple of minutes to address some important things to keep in mind when we talk about sight words and teaching sight words. So sight words are words that readers can recognize and read instantly, whether they are spelled regularly or irregularly. High frequency words are words that appear in text frequently. As students develop decoding skills, many high frequency words become sight words when the students are able to instantly and effortlessly read these words. So any sight word can essentially become a sight word once it is read instantly. And perhaps you have heard of the Dolch words or Fry words, which are often used as guides for children to learn how to read sight words. So Dolch sight words are based on high frequency words that students in kindergarten through second grade would typically be reading, while Fry words are based on the American Heritage Word Frequency Book, and those words are ranked by the frequency in which they occur in reading material from 3rd to 9th grade. And high frequency words make up over 50% of all words in connected text, so students need to be able to read them automatically to develop fluent reading skills. And we know that traditionally sight words have been taught by expecting the child to memorize the word, and so they just memorize that sequence of letters to just spell the word, and we've learned that it's not an effective way to teach sight words. What the science of reading research has told us is that the most effective way to teach sight words is through letter-sound correspondence, because successful readers are going to rely on letter-sound correspondence, on spelling patterns, and on word parts to encode and decode familiar and unfamiliar words. And when we talk about the word decoding, it refers to the process of using that letter-sound knowledge to blend sounds and word parts to read the words, while encoding refers to the process of using letter-sound knowledge to spell the words. And I think the most important thing when we talk about letter-sound knowledge is making sure that we are modeling the correct pronunciation of sounds. The English language has 44 phonemes, so those are 44 distinct sounds. And if you're unfamiliar with what those 44 phonemes are, I highly recommend that you watch this super short video that is going to model each phoneme correctly. And I also have a video that focuses on phonics instruction tips that I'll link in the description below. But another important component is children understanding phonemic awareness. This is another crucial foundational skill that children need to have in order to start learning sight words. So if phonemic awareness is another term that you're unfamiliar with, then I also have a video for that, which I will link in the description. But with all of that said, now let's get into how I use Eyewords to teach sight words. So Eyewords is a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic approach to teaching high frequency words. And it is research-based, so you can learn more about it in the How It Works section of their website. And so the first product that I bought is the Eyewords Multisensory Set 1, which includes 50 sight words. They do have 3 different sets, and each set has 50 words that include words from the Dolch Pre-Primer, Primer List, and then Fry's first 100 words. So I printed my cards double-sided, and as you can see in the front, each word is going to have a visual cue that is going to be tied with an auditory cue, which will be a phrase, and then that phrase incorporates a kinesthetic action. So on the back of the card, you will see the phrase here at the bottom and then the movement here in the corner. So I'm going to share a few examples of what that actually looks like. So the first word I will model is the word the. You can see that it has the visual cue, which is 2 arms. One arm is pointing to a ball, another arm is pointing to a car. When you turn it to the back, you see the phrase here at the bottom, the ball, the car. And then for the movement, I will just read it. It says point one finger in one direction and another finger in a different direction. So when I teach this word to my kids, we say the ball, the car. The next word is the word see, and you can see glasses on this word. So the phrase is I see you, and you go like this with your hands, kind of pretend that you have glasses, and you say I see you. The next word is the word is, and you can see in the visual cue that someone is cold. So I did add the word it to this phrase, and the movement for that, we hug ourselves and we pretend that we're shivering and we say it is cold. And the next example is the word you. You can see that somebody is pointing a finger. So the phrase is you are in trouble, and you point directly in front of you and say you are in trouble. So if you look at that list of 50 high frequency words, most of them are very abstract and hard to contextualize. And it's difficult to come up with mental images for words like the, my, to. But then you also have high frequency words like blue and play, and it's much easier to develop meaning for those words because they can actually be related to real objects or pictures. So as you saw in these few examples, the sight word is contextualized within a phrase, and then that movement and that visual cue is also super helpful. It's all tied together. And I teach English language learners, and I like making sure that these words are actually making sense to them as much as possible. So I have gone ahead and even changed the phrase in action for some words, just depending on what I think would be a little bit better. So keep in mind that you could do that too. So now I'll share a few examples of some words that I've kind of changed. The first word is to, and you can see the visual cue is somebody bouncing a basketball. So the phrase is to the park. So we go like this, we're pretending to bounce a basketball. So I added that on. So we say to the park to bounce the ball. So that's just adding more context and more vocabulary to link to that word. And what do we do with the ball? We bounce it. The next word that I changed is the word can, and you can see an actual can for the visual cue. And the phrase for it is can of soda pop, and we pretend to open a can of soda, but I switched it and the phrase is now I can drink. So we're pretending that we're holding a can or pretending to hold something, and we go I can drink. So again, just building on that vocabulary. Since I teach English language learners, instead of saying that they want to drink water, they will tell me that they want to eat water. So this helps reinforce that difference between eating and drinking. The next word is the word not. So that's the visual cue. And you can see in the back that the original phrase is not this way, but I switched it and instead I kept the movement for this one. But instead we say not a good choice. Not a good choice. And then one more example is the word my. So the phrase for this is supposed to be my why. And so for the visual cue, you see that it's holding on to the why. But I really liked that it said that you're pretending to grab something. So because of that, we do my shoe. So we hold our shoe, we say my shoe. So those are just a few examples of what that multisensory approach looks like. And another thing that I want to note is that we just started using Eyewords in February, so a few months ago, and I've already seen an immediate increase in sight word retention, and the goal for my students is for them to learn 25 by the end of the school year, and we've already covered about 22 sight words. So I think incorporating these teaching cards alone will make it so much more engaging and effective for your students to learn sight words, and Eyewords can be easily integrated with any reading curriculum or phonics program. All I had to do to start implementing Eyewords is literally just print it out. Everything is here. The visual cue, the phrase, and the movement. Now, the second part of teaching sight words is that orthographic mapping. So another digital product that I purchased are the orthographic sight word cards. That is also part of set 1, and it includes 3 resources. It has a mapping set, which is the main resource that I use to teach, and I'll show you in a minute. It also has a scope and sequence, which groups the sight words by phonics patterns, and it has a word chart, which is going to tell you which words are regularly spelled and which words are irregular. When I meet with my small groups is when I focus on that orthographic mapping component, and that requires the students to segment those sounds in the word and to understand the spelling patterns within the word. So some words will be regular, that means they can be decoded, while irregular words cannot be decoded and they don't follow those traditional English spelling rules. So when I teach irregular words, I teach my students about heart words. Heart words have a tricky part in the word, but when we know things by heart, that means we know it without having to think about it. So now let's look at this mapping resource. So I printed mine into a binder and I inserted the pages into sheet protectors. I printed out 2 pages into 1 page, so that really helps me save paper. So let's look at the example for the word said. So the heart is already giving a clue as to what part is irregular about our word. I like to use pebbles as my manipulative, and we place our pebbles on these little circles and we segment each sound and move the pebble up. So our first word is said, s, ed. Those are the 3 sounds in said. And if you look back here in the corner of this card, you are going to see those 3 sounds listed out. So that's a very helpful tool for the teachers to make sure that you are teaching the correct sounds and patterns within the word. So S makes its regular sound, s, eh. We hear a short E, but in this case, we know that it's going to be the AI together that is making that short E sound, and then the D is making its regular sound. Now the word for, we have 2 sounds, as you can see with the sound boxes. That's already giving that visual cue, but you still sound it out. For, f, or. So the F makes it sound, and the phoneme or is part of the vowel valley. It is an R-controlled vowel. So another incredibly useful resource that I use when I teach sight words is this free resource from Miss Learning Bee, which is a vowel chart. So it breaks down all of those vowel sounds and it gives you examples of words that have that sound. So this is an incredibly helpful tool for the students and teachers. And this is why I said that knowing those 44 phonemes is super important. So with those irregular words, those heart words, really explaining why that particular part of the word is irregular is just going to help them understand why that word is spelled like that. And that is how I teach sight words using Eyewords. Those are the couple of resources that I use, and I know that as educators we are probably constantly purchasing things for our classroom, but Eyewords has truly been like my favorite investment, and thank goodness that it's honestly not that expensive. I think it's very affordable, and you can use code PREK to get 15% off your purchase from their website. And I do want to note that they have digital products that cost less than their physical products. And you can also save money if you purchase different bundles. I decided to purchase the digital files because that way I can just print however many times I need. So I have my teaching cards, my main teaching cards that are the big double-sided ones, but I also reprinted them smaller and I posted them in the front of my classroom so that my students could reference them. And I teach my sight words in that particular order displayed in the front of my classroom because those words are very common when my students start reading leveled readers, and they're also very helpful words for my students to start writing very simple sentences using those words. But Eyewords does include a suggested order that you can find in the multisensory set. But another cool thing, if you purchase the digital resources, that you can make your own personal resources for your personal classroom use. So I made this very simple chart. So again, I'm including those first 25 words in the order that I teach it to my students. And then in the back, I wrote the phrase and then I wrote the movement in italics. So this is actually something that's going to go home with them for the summer. Explain it to the parents so that they can keep practicing over the summer. And lastly, we know that students still need a lot of exposure to sight words. So there's many fun ways that you can review, and you can learn about some resources that I use in my classroom. I do have a video titled My Favorite Resources for Teaching Sight Words and CVC Words if you want to take a look at that. I'll link it below. But that's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and let me know if this inspired you to start implementing Eyewords in your classroom. Please make sure to like this video. That really helps my channel. Subscribe for future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!